Good evening. Hello, everyone joining us. If you're in China, good evening or good afternoon if you're somewhere else in the world. Welcome to our webinar today, 30 minutes on how to navigate the job market for 2026. I like these sessions to be as interactive, engaging, and useful as possible if you're giving up your evening to be with us. So just pop in the group chat what you're looking to learn from this evening. What is it that you've come? What have you zoomed in for? What do you want to get out of this session? What can we help you with? So start the group, the chat going. Rose will be in there to help with the questions as we go. Start putting yourselves in there because I am very, very good at keeping to the 30 minutes because I know end of a long semester, right? Everyone is more than ready for Spring Festival, having hopefully at least 2 weeks, if not a month, off. So we'll keep it to 30 minutes. And then if you want to stay on for extra questions, you can at the end. So pop in the group chat. What are you most interested in? Why did you zoom in tonight? Let us know so we can keep on track. My name is Rowena. I'm the owner of Totally Teach. We started in 2018 from Hangzhou, and we've been helping foreign teachers ever since get jobs across China and now most recently also overseas. And I am delighted and honored to be joined tonight by Sarah, a good friend of mine who I've known for many years now. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Sarah.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm also signing in from China. And just briefly, I've been a founding principal for from 2022 to 2025. And prior to that, deputy head academic. And I started off a long time ago as a teacher. So I have over 15 years of experience in education. And I've taught in many different countries in the world. I've been in Thailand, I've taught in Uzbekistan, and I've been in China for over a decade. So, yes, I'm very much looking forward to see how I can be of support today.
We are very lucky to have someone with so much global experience with us tonight. And we're going to start with I'm going to go through what you can do in the beginning. So it depends where you want to apply to. I've prepared something that is more general because you might be applying for China, but you also might be interested in overseas now or looking elsewhere or at least starting to think about applying outside of China too. And then Sarah is going to give some all important interview advice. Once your CV has got you through the door and it's your first round, Sarah can give you some tips and some prep so that you can succeed and go into the final round and get that offer that you can then consider. And then we've got some question time at the end. So, what are schools looking for? These are all from school principals themselves. Obviously, we speak to principals daily, but I specifically went and asked a handful of top principals in China and overseas, what is it when they get a CV? What are they looking for specifically? First thing is qualifications for different tiers of schools. As you know, hopefully, a Totally Teach tier system, bronze, silver, gold. They will all have their requirements in terms of what you need to have as a minimum. And that is what qualifies you, what ticks that first box. The biggest thing that has changed over the years, we've had a different market pre-COVID, during COVID, and then post-COVID as well, and it's stability. If you're swapping jobs every year, there has to be a really good reason and you have to have really solid references to back it up. Otherwise, your CV is going to go to the bottom of the pile. As a general rule, schools are now looking for 2, 3 years at any one school. And even then, it's the first time where if you've swapped schools every 2 years, it can even be at least a question mark. And a disclaimer before we go into even more detail is just to remember that hiring is very subjective. One year you'll apply to the same school and one principal will hire you, no questions. They'll think you're a fantastic candidate because you're a good match with them. The next hiring season, it might be a new principal, same school, and it could be a different story. So do remember that what is a good match for you is also a good match for the school because you're both on your own journeys and it has to be the right environment for you to thrive. Speaking of that, some principals prefer teachers that have had China work experience. You know the culture, you know the students, and you know parental expectations. Others like to hire from overseas, fresh ideas, fresh experience, but in general, a lot of schools will want international experience. They will want to see that you can adapt to another culture, that you can appease different parents from different parts of the world. And expressing that in the right way is really important. Make it very clear who have you taught and what have you taught. Age group, curriculums, subjects. Very simple. Make it very, very obvious because every school is hiring for specific vacancies. So in their mind, they want to see how do you fit not only with their school culture, ethics, and values, but how do you fit for this position? In China specifically, but in other countries as well, obviously you need to meet visa requirements for a working visa wherever that may be. And we all know in China for certain subjects, English and homeroom, in certain provinces and cities, it is possible in China, but in general, it is harder to get a non-native speaker as deemed by the Chinese government for visa regulations, a visa to teach English or homeroom. The schools will take that into consideration when looking to interview next and who's in the running for that. Then this was actually from Sarah herself, commitment to the school. What have you got involved with? How have you contributed to the school and the wider community and environment? Have you said yes to things so that you can grow personally and professionally? Have you taken on extra courses? Have you been involved with events, for example? All of this needs to be communicated in a succinct and clear way, which is not easy, through obviously your digital document, your CV, whilst trying to give an impression of you as an educator, because you always have to think, why is it you and not someone else? Which brings me on to, I think, the main point of my presentation, which is your CV, your application. The main point of your CV and applying to a position is to get that all-important interview. Once you get the interview, you can bring your personality out, you can talk more, you can go into more detail, you can build a rapport with whoever's interviewing you. But to be able to do that, you have to get chosen. And when you've got 200, 300 people applying for one position, you need to stand out. This was a genuine CV consult that I did. Her name is not really Jane Williams, but we protected her details in that way. And this is what she came to me with. And she didn't really know where she wanted to go, in what direction, how to convey everything that she's done in the past, because she's had a variety of experience. She studied a variety of courses and qualifications, and it was difficult. What do I include on my CV? What do I take out? What are principals looking for? What are they not? And this is what we came up with, which I'm very happy to say she got an interview within a week with a British international school as a head of pastoral. So I was very pleased with that outcome. First things first, again, is subjective, but generally the form now is to include a picture. Now it can at least show a little bit of who you are. Professional dress, a bit of a smile, something like that. It's a way to bring yourself across. Again, within a PDF. It's not easy, but it's a start. Some principals don't care about it. It's not they don't mind. They're going to see you when they interview you face to face. But in general, when I ask most of them, they do prefer to have a picture. The next thing is underneath your name, which a lot of them have, is very clearly your name, very bold at the top. Underneath, tell the hiring person who you are as an educator in terms of, how should I continue to scan this CV? Am I dealing with a kindergarten teacher? And therefore, I'm going to look for, have you taught EYFS? Have you taught Montessori? Do you have an early childhood degree? Compared to an A-level biology teacher, I'm going to review your CV very differently. So here was qualified British pastoral and English language and literature specialist. Adapt it to who you are. How do you want to be seen? What positions are you applying for? And bring the succinct information across as quickly as possible to someone who's scanning, not reading, because when you've got 200 to get through, you do scan, what you want them to know about you within 2 seconds. Then education. On the previous version, Jane had lots and lots of certificates, qualifications, which is incredible. But what do you really want the schools to see first? What do you want up the top? Again, what do you want them to see within 10 seconds of opening your CV that's relevant to the position and school that you're applying to? Get your education qualifications up there, and list the other things as you see appropriate through the rest of the CV. The next, your work experience, probably the most important thing on the whole document because it tells your story factually. You can tell someone who's hiring till you're blue in the face that you are passionate, hardworking, committed. You can show them through statistics and facts that you are all those things through your work experience at the schools that you've genuinely worked at that can give you references and back it up. The other thing that I've noticed through doing the CV consults as well is because you are true educators and you are committed, you go into school every day and you do so many things that are just natural to you and part of the job that you don't realize just how much you're doing, how much you're contributing, and what your strengths really are. A lot of teachers are underselling themselves and not truly getting across everything that they can bring to a school community. And then lastly is this little bit of profile. Again, won't be read thoroughly, not a focus of the CV, but whatever you include in this part should be something that the hiring person cannot get from the rest of your CV. Think about your teaching philosophy, pedagogy, something like that, because schools will hire on a basics of requirements in terms of education, work experience, as I've mentioned. But then they do want to see, why are you a good fit for my school at this stage of where the school is at? A founding school or a school that's in its first 3 years will require different educators with different skills than a school that's been established for 15 years. So they need to see why you're a fit and how you could work together. And that is the quick thing for me because it is 15 minutes. We've done halfway through the session. So I'll leave that up here for just another moment. But that is the main point, is to organize and present yourself in the best way possible. Think about, if it's you against someone else, why should a school interview you? What is it that they should want to ask you about? And intrigue them, entice them into wanting to speak to you in whichever way you think that could be done. So that's me. That's the start of your application, your CV, where you're going to go, how you can navigate it. And then, because you've got a wonderful CV now, you're going to get asked for an interview. And then what should we do? So I will pass on to Sarah, who can give you a few more tips about that to get through that interview process.
Hi, Rowena. Thanks. I'm going to try and use these 10-15 minutes very effectively. And I'm happy to take questions later. So let me just get right into it. As Rowena said, there are a lot of applicants for most jobs. Even after you've gotten your CV through and have been asked for an interview, assume there are also many other candidates, at least 3 to 4, to be realistic, who will be interviewing for the same position. So take your interview as seriously as you have your CV writing and your CV presentation. And remember, this is your best chance to be there on screen. Or, in fact, if you can fly to the city, go for an in-person interview. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it isn't. But a face-to-face sit down is the best way to go about things. A lot of information can be conveyed in this fashion. And just you seeking out this opportunity to say, hey, I'm in the city. Would a weekend be possible? Would an evening interview be possible? It's already saying a lot about you, and it's already showing how serious you are about your application. You are trying to sell yourself in a genuine fashion. And I really like what Rowena said. Teachers very often undersell themselves. So I'm going to end with a tip for you, but this is your chance to represent yourself correctly and truly and speak to the best of your strengths. So your CV has given a succinct representation of who you are. This is your chance. Pay attention to the questions, obviously. Answer the questions to the best of your ability using not just generic adjectives. You don't want to be generic at this interview. You've made it thus far. Your main aim should be to stand out from all the other applicants who are going to be interviewing or have already interviewed. So what you need to be doing is to make yourself pop. Your CV has already popped, therefore you're here, but you need to be talking about your contributions. You need to be talking about your contributions on very many different levels. Some teachers focus just on academic, just focus inside the classroom, which is good. You are essentially being hired for teaching and learning. That should be your main priority, to talk about how you've influenced students. What kind of students have you taught? Again, instead of saying, I taught psychology to this age, it was very good, or short generic answers like that. Break it up. What was good about it? What was challenging about it? Be honest, be realistic, because what you're doing is allowing the interviewer to draw parallels with their own school, because every school has a mixed level students and different situations that you don't know going in. But just speaking from your experience, you could perhaps trigger connections in their mind to say, hey, this person, I wasn't considering them in this fashion, but actually they have this experience and maybe they'll be a better fit than I initially assumed. Or I was just looking at them like this, but now they've just broadened themselves and I think they'll be a better fit. Um, Talk about the different levels of students in your class, the students who had better English, who understood your subject better, how you helped them, how you challenged them, the middle level students who were very hardworking, very motivated, but struggled on X, Y, and Z aspects, and the students who were simply reluctant to learn, who picked your subject for very many different reasons, and passion or love for your subject isn't one of the reasons they're there, but they're in your class. How have you helped each and every one? And I assume a good teacher does help each and every one. And in your mind, maybe like Rowena said before, they're just like normal things. It's your job, it's your responsibility, you've done it. But to a principal, to a deputy head of academics, to a head of department who's interviewing you, they're not going to assume you know all of these things. So sometimes you need to state the obvious. You need to, the more detail you give, the more the interviewer understands how well you know your job, what kind of a teacher you are. And someone who speaks with detail, who presents information in a very organized manner, says a lot about the way they go about their work in general. So, by speaking about how you've contributed holistically, how you've helped out with pastoral problems, how you've dealt with conflict inside the classroom, how you've perhaps dealt with challenges in the school, anything to show that you're a real person with real experiences. Don't, every second you have in that interview is valuable. Every second you're given to answer a question is valuable. A lot of people I interview say, no, we don't have any questions, or they give you the briefest answer possible. And it's like you're supposed to fill the gaps, which is not very effective use of your time. And you're going to, I think, get pushed to the bottom of the list if you were to uh, model that kind of interview tactic. So again, you have to stand out. You have to show all school contributions. You may have helped out proofreading the school magazine or the school handbook. Very valuable. To you, you seem like I'm in the English department. It's not a problem for me. It comes naturally to me to edit. Yes, maybe so, but A, you volunteered or you were asked and you took that opportunity. It's saying a lot about you. B, you gave your own time. You still had your classes. You still needed to do all of that. You still gave up your time. You care about the quality of this document, or you're ambitious, or you've done it for some reason, whatever it may be, whatever extra things you've done and gone above and beyond, that is what you're there to present. And we assume all teachers are good teachers and they have the best interest of the students at heart, but you need to show how you stand out. That's the key thing. Um, you can also talk about how you've helped with recruitment, how you've helped with fairs, how you've helped with all school events. Uh, every opportunity you get, talk about how you plan your work. So if you're asked how do you plan your lessons, talk about how you plan your lessons, like the when the student sees Mr. and Miss so and so, what is Mr. and Miss so and so showcasing in that lesson, but also talk a little bit about the background, how you planned your lesson, what resources did you use, or why did you do it that way and not this way? What were you thinking? That gives a lot of insight into you. That gives a lot of insight into not just you saying what your educational philosophy is, but you actually proving the kinds of things you consider, the way in which you do things. And again, this level of detail just highlights you more, puts you more in the spotlight. So I'm just going to run through some of the things here. My next part is going to be just your body language and non-verbal stuff in the interview. I'm also going to talk to you about what's going on in the background with schools, and sometimes when you don't get chosen, what might be going on, and why Rowena said sometimes you apply to a school in 2024, you may not get the job, but in 2025 you did. Um, so moving on, when you get the chance to speak of yourself, the school is looking to see how you fit. That is a very important point I want to stress. Your CV and many other CVs out there are very good. They have all the right qualifications, the right experience, but I'm sorry to say, but I will be very truthful. There are many CVs, fantastic as they've been, obviously very well qualified people who have not made it, who have not been hired. And I want to go into some of those reasons. And the reason I'm saying it is not to discourage you or to say, oh, full stop, there's no chance. No, I want you to consider addressing these things because you obviously have to do your research before going into an interview. You should know about the school, the size of the school, how old the school is. And if you have experience that differs from that, speak to it. For example, if you have dependents, maybe it's a new school, maybe they'll be hesitant about that. Speak to that, maybe. Consider how the school would be looking at that. If you've been at a very big school, moving to a very small school, speak to that. Talk about possibilities of multiple subject exposure. A lot of humanities teachers can teach more than one subject. And even if you have just are being interviewed for X position, if you can offer another position, even though they're not hiring it for it at the moment, speak to that. Say, I have physics knowledge. I can perhaps teach some parts of further math. I haven't either A, I've taught it before and I'd be happy to teach it again, or B, I haven't taught it before, but someday if you ever need the support, I'd be happy to consider training for it with the school support. Just these things to show that you've preempted issues, you're looking out for the school's development as well, you're happy to contribute more. Of course, not many teachers like to teach more than one subject, so that is something for you to decide. Um, some may have uh, issues in the back, like they have internal hires they want to consider. And again, speak to that. If it's just a teacher position, maybe it's not so strong. But if you're going into middle leadership or to some kind of early leadership position, you can mention that. Of course, I know, understand how important it is for a person coming in to understand the school, to know the school. But as an outsider, this is what I plan to do to overcome these issues. Um, Rowena, how am I doing with time?
A minute? Ish.
Okay. Then I'll quickly jump into body language. Obviously, the obvious dress well, present well, make sure your background is neat and tidy and in a good environment. Don't underestimate body language. Keep eye contact. Be alive. Be natural, of course, but nod appropriately. Just be involved. Don't be passive. Be active. Um, Show that you're an enthusiastic person because they're judging your persona and how you're going to be in the classroom with young people. And if you look bored and if you look indifferent, and maybe you're very distracted, if it's you're having a very bad day and you've had the interview, ask to reschedule or address it at the beginning. Be as honest and as transparent as possible so you come across as like a real person and not just some random CV that they're interviewing, because it's a very important opportunity for you. Don't ramble. Don't be over familiar. Definitely don't be talking negatively about your previous experiences. You may be right, but right doesn't matter here. You have to stay totally professional. So, to sum up, put your best self forward. Think of little examples. I would advise you, as busy people, and I did this myself. Sometimes 8 hours, 10 hours would just go, and I'd be like, what did I do today? And I couldn't always recall. I had an assistant, but you probably don't have an assistant to help you recall things. Make voice notes. Use a transcriber every month, put it into an Excel somewhere, highlights from your days, excellent conversations you've had with parents, compliments you've received from parents and students. Maybe it's in writing, maybe it's an excellent piece of work you've done, a very successful CPD meeting that you've volunteered to lead and you've got very good feedback about. And then, you build your portfolio of actual examples that you can speak to. And lastly, you're there at an interview, not just to showcase yourself, but to showcase how you fit the school you're currently interviewing for. Okay, sorry. Hope that was useful.
No, that was fantastic. And I think just to echo what Sarah said, especially about the portfolios, it's something that we've experienced more and more. Schools just want evidence. They want evidence to see that you can back up what you're saying, you are doing what you're doing. The biggest pet peeve that I've heard recently is that teachers getting AI to write their CVs for them because I think it's a thing of passing an ATS system, an applicant tracking system, but then getting to interview and they don't know what's on their CV. So they can't talk about it. So now it's gone the other way where schools are like, I really need, proof that this teacher is really doing and has achieved
Mm.
what they said they've done. Kind of putting your money where your mouth is type of situation. And that has changed. So completely document what you can, and you'll probably be surprised yourself just how much you're contributing to. The two things that I pick up as well with what Sarah said was your enthusiasm in the interview. We've genuinely had HRs and principals say to us, I really like the teacher, CV interviews, like answers were good, but I don't know if they're interested in us. And it could be
Mm.
nerves, it could be things like that, and just be honest with them. The best thing you do is just be honest and be yourself, but do bring some sort of energy because they're like, do they want to join us? Are they not bothered? So they're not as then enthusiastic to be like, yeah, let's get an offer on the table, let's secure this teacher in a few days because we really want them to join. And the last thing that I've heard from principals from Saudi Arabia to Thailand to wherever is that when they are interviewing someone, they all say within the first 10 minutes, they are pretty sure they know who they're going to offer. So they'll still go through the rest of the interview to cement that, but it's the first impression that you get where the principals get a gut feeling of you're going to fit in here, you're going to fit with our culture, our team, the parents, the students, you're going to do well. And of course, everything else happens, background checks, negotiations, stuff like that. But fundamentally, the point is that you do the work to get your foot in the door and don't waste that interview opportunity. When you get in front of them, they want to fill their positions, and make sure if you want it, you're the person that they want to fill it with. So we can go on to some questions now. A bit of shameless advertising here, but with the CV and career consultations, I do love doing them. So I pop them in here, and they have been really well received. And more so, it's a chance to actually talk through everything that we've just said and to bring out a personalized plan for you. What have you done? Where do you want to go? How can we help you? Or not, it's just even us. It's not, you don't have to work with Totally Teach afterwards. You can make direct applications. But I think the biggest difference that people have seen is that they have actually then realized what their strengths are, and how competitive they are as an educator within what field. And then that helps with interviews as well, because as Sarah said, then you can talk more about all your contributions that you've made to the school and what you can do as a teacher there and what you can add. So we do have, okay, let's go through. I'll do this. This is our next webinar, and we'll do Q&As at the end because then we've given you all the information in 30 minutes like we promised, and then you can choose to stay and hear the Q&A or not. Next week we have our last in the webinar series with our lovely partners from BEA, the bank, and they have got a new free pizza initiative. So tune in next week again, 30 minutes for that. And Leanne, who's on the call as well, part of the Totally Teach team, we will be with Sarah at the LYS conference in Hanoi, Vietnam, 6th to the 8th of March. Amazing place to network and rub shoulders with principals and leaders from across the globe. If this is where you want to ask your questions, this is where you want to learn from workshops, you want to know what should I be doing, where should I be going, this is where you want to be. Really, really lovely people. I went to the first one in Foshan on my own. I didn't know anyone, and it was honestly more comfortable than some weddings I've been to. They're a really, really lovely community of people. And yeah, me, Sarah, and Leanne will all be there in person too. And follow our WeChat to see our jobs available. So there is your information. No extra information will be shared now. We've done the 30 minutes, but we will go on to your questions now. So if you do have any questions, stay online, ask. We're going to go through the chat and get to you. Otherwise, thank you very, very much for joining us. So I might shoot some questions your way as well, Sarah, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, interested in learning about the most valuable professional qualifications for a new ESL position. So, Gabrielle, it depends if you've had any experience before, because experience is just as valuable, especially in the beginning, as a qualification. You need that hands-on, in classroom, knowing what you're doing with the students as well before you start to go down the route of the first qualification is usually a PGCE, PGCEI, as an initial step. Then you go on to licenses, so QTS or the American license, that you can do with Moreland University, and then you can go on to the master's level. So obviously, China visa-wise, degree in TEFL, get some experience under your belt, and then look at studying a PGCE. Would there be another qualification you'd recommend, Sarah?
No, I think those are the basic standard ones to get your CV through the door. So those are the standards and non-negotiable in this competitive market. And after that, for those who have a genuine interest and who would like to go up the career ladder, so to speak, or look for leadership jobs, a master's definitely, and then NPQs or qualifications in some kind of leadership.
Brilliant. And I think that then we can go back even further because you'll remember as well starting your journey as a like new teacher when you first began with no experience, how to get
Mhm.
started because there's a few of these kind of questions in the group of like I have no teaching experience. I've got my TEFL, I've got my degree, and I want to maybe join a kindergarten. What would you advise a teacher in that position just starting their journey?
Maybe some countries have stricter visa rules, like China, for example, that 2 years is non-negotiable. But consider a non-international school setting in Southeast Asia, for example. That's what I did, and that's where I have experience, and I know it's a possibility. At least you're not restricted by the visa situation. So maybe you don't start with your dream international school job, but you have to build your way. And then someday, were you to come to China or a country with stricter visa rules, you have those 2 years under your belt. And there are a lot of decent schools out there who may not be teaching international curriculum per se, but they still teach their subjects, they still teach English, and you have opportunities there. So be creative and expand your thinking. Don't be stuck on what you want and only focus on that. There's always a way.
Yeah, definitely. The most important part is to get started somewhere. And I would, from if it was me and my team, we would recommend training centers. They do still exist in China. Obviously, we know the big changes that happened quite a few years ago now, but they are still there, the ones that have survived, and they are a perfect place to start. And they're a good place to start. It's a nice environment. It's not as much pressure in certain ways as obviously international schools or in certain environments and just get started. All you need is those first couple of years experience on your CV and then you can start to mold and also see what you like. You know, what type of students are you most age group wise? Do you enjoy teaching? And then you can go from there. Another question, how to get through to the interview stage. I've been applying to China with silence. So that comes from the first step. That comes from where are you applying? How is your CV structured? What applications are you making? And what channels are you using to apply? If you're making direct applications, if they are specific schools and positions that you really, really want, attach a cover letter. Are they read? Probably 50-50 chance. It depends how many applications a hiring person gets through for one position, but it does show your enthusiasm that you've warranted the time to write a letter that's specifically for that school, for that position, and also think why you a good fit. Think about everything we've said in this session of, okay, you've got the qualifications, you've got the experience, well, so do 100 other people. So why you? What else is it about the school? There's, for example, some green campuses out there now. So is that an interest of yours? Is that a passion of yours that you've contributed to in your school? Think of other ways that you can fit very easily with that school environment. And then you should get some more response. But I think it depends. It's looking at your application. Something's not quite right in the first stage. Then maybe one for you, Sarah, that you can help me with as well. How do you think if someone was asked, what is your current salary in an interview? Maybe they're thinking about offering this teacher, and they want to know what you're on because sometimes, they don't want to say we can't even match that. You're not going to consider. They don't want to waste your time. Um,
Yeah.
what advice could you give a teacher if they are asked this question?
I think you can't have everything your way, and sometimes there is always an agenda for being asked that question, of course, but the main takeaway that it's a positive question. If they had no intentions of hiring you or weren't even considering it, they would not be asking you that question because time is very valuable. So if they're asking you that question, answer it honestly. Even if you don't answer it, perhaps when they're doing reference checks at the end, they are very likely to ask your HR and they will get the answer out of them. So answer the question. It's not going to hurt you. Eventually, if you do get an offer and you feel you're being shortchanged because of your answer, you can speak and ask for more. You can negotiate because the negotiation time is very powerful. And as I've said before, sometimes if you're very lucky to have gotten an offer and it is not is very different from your current offer, you can ask for more PD. You can ask for a specialized PD allowance. And again, this can be a win-win for both you and the school.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is positive. So
Yeah.
just think, well, do I want the offer? So I need to tell them. And you can still talk about things post that. It doesn't mean that it's secured and you still need to accept for it to get to that point. Isabella has a PGDE and is wondering if a QTS would be an advantage or to go straight to master's level. I will ask you now, Sarah. In my opinion, it depends what route you're on, Isabella. It depends on your goals. It depends where you're going next and what positions you want to be applying for. Do you want to be getting into leadership roles or not? So I would ask that before advising what to do next. But Sarah, maybe you think something else?
In my eyes, Isabella, is a PGDE is a qualification for teaching in your country. And again, if I'm right, it's South African. I may be very wrong, but if that gives you a license to teach in South Africa, speak to that, mention that on your CV, equivalent to QTS. Do your research and make sure it is equivalent to QTS. But if it is, then I would say you could go straight on to masters.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree, Isabel. If you have a license already, then yeah, go to master's level and make sure that this is very clear on your CV because
Mm.
make sure they don't overlook that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
May is currently teaching in an international school in Bali. Is it necessary to ask for a recommendation letter from my current principal? Are schools in China particular on that? Yes. I think schools all over the world are. I think that's not just a China thing. China is hot on references. Certain provinces, for example, Zhejiang kindergarten, you can't get the visa if you don't have 2 years reference letters for kindergarten positions specifically. But it's not only that, recommendation letters support what you are saying in your CV. It's almost like having a witness to your work and to your achievements to back that up and to say, yeah, hire this teacher because they're going to do a great job for your school as they have done in mine. So we always recommend to get written references that you have on hand already. I think that it's fair to say that in China, there are situations where when you are leaving your current school, the management is not, they're upset. They don't want to see you leave and they would like to keep you. And the background check that comes back is slightly different, but it can only be different if you've asked for a pre-written reference letter in the first place. So if that does happen to you, and I do know that it has happened to some teachers and it is really hard to navigate that situation, but if you are prepared, then you can showcase, well, I did have this written and now it's maybe saying something else. So just be prepared, get your references, but also, like Sarah said, get your portfolio. No one can argue with evidence and with facts and what's really happened and how you've done that and how you've contributed to the school. So definitely may get that reference from Bali. And I think the schools in China will be very happy to see that. So
Can I add something there, please?
definitely, please.
Apart from having that electronic reference, you should also make sure if you had a very good relationship with your head of department and maybe with your vice principal more than someone else, any kind of line manager that you had the best working relationship with, save their phone numbers and their emails because if they change their jobs and you've lost touch with them, sometimes you can, a lot of schools now, the visa part of it may ask for the electronic references, but when they're at an earlier stage of interview and background checks, they would just email someone. And a professional email is better than a personal email. So keep in touch with people and always keep updating your list of past references. And as they grow and change schools, you should still always be able to reach out to them. That's very useful.
Yeah, don't burn bridges, make them for sure. Um, this is a good question as well, which I think would be good, Sarah, if you don't mind. What should teachers say when they're asked, why did you leave your previous position or school, or why are you quitting your current job?
There are lots of different answers as to the reality of why you've quit your job, and some may reflect badly on you, some may not reflect badly on you. So you need to discern the difference. And I would still say honesty is always very good, but sometimes it may really backfire. So you have to first ask, did you do something unprofessional? Did you break contract? A lot of schools, I mean, they'll hire you in the middle of your contract. So they benefit as well if you've been unprofessional in like the blanket term, breaking your contract. But um, I would say find the balance of honesty because people can always, like I said, in a background check, find out why you've actually left a school. Try to be considerate of your old school, but I would say put yourself first. A lot of people are very loyal and very protective, and for the sake of protecting their school, they actually give themselves a bad name. So look out for yourself. Don't badmouth when you don't have to badmouth, and but find the balance. And again, if you're happy to send questions in here, even privately to Totally Teach, and I'm happy to address them later, but there are very many scenarios as to backgrounds into this question, and it would be helpful to know exactly why you've left and therefore how you're still trying to get a fair foot into the next job.
Thanks, Sarah. Not an easy question to answer for a broad sense. Last
Yeah.
question is, if I have a dependent visa for China and reside here, is it helpful to mention it on the CV? Yes, it is. Reason being for ASAP positions. So you are able to start sooner than someone that's overseas. If a
Yeah.
school cannot find someone that's on a work visa to transfer them in time, that is, but maybe as suitable as you or more, then your competitive edge is time. And sometimes that's very important within a school situation. The thing that I would recommend for you is to get your other visa paperwork in line. So you need your degree, your TEFL, and a recent criminal background check within the past 6 months. But the sooner the better, really. So yes, mention it on your CV. It gives you that element of speed, but just make sure your paperwork is in line as well to back it up. So we thank you all so much. Most people stayed on the call as well, very committed to this. So thank you all very much for giving up your evenings. The full webinar recording and everything that we've said, all the information that's been given will be on our YouTube channel, and the link is in the chat just there. Get in touch with the Totally Teach team if you need help this year finding a position. Thank you so, so much to Sarah for giving us all the interview tips. I never fail
Thank
to
you.
learn something from you. So thank you very much. And I'm sure everyone online did as well. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us and follow our WeChat. Keep in touch with someone from the team. Join us in Vietnam. Do what you can. But good luck with this year. I hope you all find positions that you're looking for and a good fit for both you and the school. So thank you all very much and have a good evening. Bye bye.